Talk Radio.
She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, her straight dog is nice. She's a pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
Good morning and welcome, Transformation Talk Network listeners. My name is Ellen Stewart and I am the pushy broad from the Bronx. Welcome to my show, Recovery Recharged, where we share advice and support from experts in addiction, recovery, and life. And I want to talk about a topic that we really focus on in recovery, and that is resilience. How do you find your resilience? What obstacles are you facing personally and professionally, which will lead you to summon up resilience in ways that you never thought of before? I brought an expert on today to show us how to find our resilience, and she comes with personal and professional experience. I want to introduce to you resilience coach, mindset coach, Sally Allen. And let me tell you a little bit about Sally and why she's here today. She is an International Coaching Federation certified coach and also a John Maxwell coach. She's an author, a podcaster, and a resilience speaker. We're going to hear a little bit about her personal story as she inspires people to believe in themselves and lead empowered lives. She also talks about her journey and gives us an idea that women can rise above any challenge. Her passion for empowerment has led her to globally volunteer with organizations that specifically support women's empowerment. You're going to be able to find Sally Allen on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and she's going to tell you where to find her. And the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, Recovery Recharged, is proud to introduce our guest today, Sally Allen. Good morning, Sally. How are you?
Good morning. I am fine. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me here. I am honored to be here.
You are welcome. I kind of want to get right into it. All right. And I want you to be as candid and as open and honest as you would like to be to share with us. Let's start with what inspired you to become a mindset coach? And can you tell us first what you mean by mindset?
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with mindset. Mindset is basically, I call it conscious hacking, unconscious hacking. It's half of the times we live in our subconscious mind. 90% of the times and 5% of the times we live in our conscious mind. So if we were to get into our conscious mind more, then we will have more fruitful lives. The reason why I got into this is because it changed my life and it made me who I am today. Ellen, I won't be who I am today if I hadn't changed my mindset.
I understand. So tell me, because of that, how your personal journey shaped that decision.
My personal journey, I was thrown in an arranged marriage at 17, and it was very abusive. And I needed to get out of it. When my son was 4 years old, I had an epiphany that he was my protector, and I needed to get out of that marriage. And I did it one day when I saw my son was thrown across the room. It was my first resilient thought. I had never, up until I was 21 years old when I had my first resilient thought, I have to stand up for this little boy, and I have to stand up for myself, because if I don't, I'll always be living in this bondage that I was.
You talk about a terrible moment in your history. I completely understand. And I want all of our listeners out there to realize that sometimes there is a pivotal moment in your life that is the deciding factor, where I guess what you would say, come out of your subconscious mind into your conscious mind. So then what did you do?
I was lying on the floor being strangled. I was almost passing out when I saw he was thrown across the room. And I saw the look in his eyes, and it changed. That pivotal moment changed my life. I made a decision then that I would run away. That's one. But two, I am going to be resilient and no one will do this to me again. So I planned it out. I had to come back into my conscious mind to say, I go to default as I'm a victim and this is my life. I had to come out of that and say, I'm not a victim. This can't be my life. I can't be better. And I had to take action. Action is the most important thing we will do to build our resiliency, Ellen. When we plan together, set goals, and take action. And I did that to run away. And I did 6 months later.
You're right. Conscious action certainly is something that brings us into full consciousness, brings us into reality as opposed to what's in our brain. The way that people in recovery can relate to this is talking about the fact that when we're in our subconscious and when we're in our imagination, so to speak, and when we're ruminating over the possibilities of things that might be, we stay stuck in our world. We believe that either nothing can touch us or we believe that this is the way life is going to be and we can't do anything about it. So really, you are very grateful for the fact that you had someone else to focus on. It wasn't only about your life. Would you say that was true?
Totally. Sometimes when we can't draw the strength from ourselves, we have to do it from other people or for other people. Because when you've been abused all of your life and that's all you know, that's all your subconscious know. This is the life you've lived, and all of a sudden something wakes you up, like, oh my gosh, I have a choice. This is where resiliency is built. When you do that one act of bravery, you start a building block of resiliency.
And that's very true. So it does just take sometimes one small or large act. For you, it was monumental. You planned an escape route. You planned to get out. That, how long did that take you from start to finish? From the moment you knew you had to go to the moment you left, how long did that take?
It took me about 6 months, but the first 2 months was actually pulling the trigger because I've never done anything resilient in my life. I've been told what to do, what to say, where to go, where to work, when to wake up. I've never had a resilient thought in my life. So it took me 2 months to actually be brave to share with someone. Here's another part of it: bring people into your lives that you trust, that can encourage you. And that's what activated me, someone encouraging me and telling me, you can do this.
So do you find that when you look back that I know it was the right decision for you, but what do you think you had to sacrifice anything? What did you lose?
I I lost the old Sally. In this case, I lost the old Sally and I found this new person who built herself and built a life for herself that can sit here with you, Ellen, and look you in the eye, something I couldn't do. I could hardly speak and articulate. And this is the person I found. So I didn't lose anything. I found her.
All right. Well, you let go of the old, right? You got out of the cocoon and became a butterfly. And how long ago was that for you?
That was 22 years ago. No, wait, no, almost 24 years ago.
Marvelous. Marvelous. So you've completely turned your life around in such a wonderful way. I assume you moved to the States, to the United States from there?
So I got married in my country, which is Guyana. 3 years later, I moved to the United States. So I lived in Brooklyn, New York for a while. And 13 years ago, my current husband and I and our son, we moved to Las Vegas.
Ah, love it. Absolutely love it. Well, a born and raised Bronx girl certainly knows Brooklyn really well, and I understand, and I'm glad that you came here. So let's talk about resiliency specifically. How do you specifically define it? And tell us about some of the other obstacles in life people can overcome to get to a place of resilience.
Now, the dictionary definition of resiliency is bouncing back quickly, bouncing back from something that you've gone through. But I like to add the word quickly, because over time, when we have done things that we've overcome certain things, we see the results of that. And one of the things I tell people, when you're building your resiliency, you have to go back to the past, and you have to go back and look at those experiences and those things that you have overcome, those hurdles you jumped over, and that continues to build. So when I look back, way back when, this one hard thing I've been through, one of the hardest things, Ellen, because I know I was going to get killed. I had to run away secretly. I look back at that, like that was one of the hardest things I've gone through. This I can do. So it's always gleaning from past experience that helps us to move forward and continue building those blocks that I was talking about.
And it was such a traumatic experience and such a flight to freedom that you wrote a book.
Yes, I did.
Could you tell us the name of it and where we can find it?
Yes, my book is called Triumph Over Failure and Fear, and you can find it on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or wherever. And author Sally Allen, obviously. And it's a book about my story. I wrote my story from the beginning to the end. And I'll talk more about that later.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about resilience and tell us when you got into coaching what you have learned. When did that begin for you?
One of the things I've been doing, and I'm pretty good at doing, I believe truly coaching is a gift, that you have to love people and care about people and want to see them rise to their full potential. And that's something I've done all of my life for free. I've always done that. And I realized I've gone through so much. Ellen, I was insecure. I had no self esteem. I couldn't look people in the eye. I couldn't speak out loud. I couldn't articulate a sentence properly because I was so oppressed. And when I was able to do that through these processes that I put in place, I thought, man, wouldn't it be great if I can share this with the world and use it to help other people? Because look who I am today. If you would have told me when I was 17, this would be the girl I am today, I would have said, you're crazy.
Okay. So now how do you work with clients now? What are you doing? How are you spending your time?
So I work with big corporations or I work with individual clients, and I help them to overcome limiting beliefs. Even when you are in a large team, and if you have limiting beliefs, that hinders your team. You're only as strong as your weakest link in your teams. I also help. Limiting beliefs brings with it lack of self-confidence. It brings imposter syndrome. It brings not being able to articulate what you want to say because you're so nervous. So I work with teams with conversation skills. I work with them to understand each other. I work with teams like, hey, building trust. I always tell teams, trust is the building block on the foundation of how they operate. So I use all those modalities to help managers and leaders build high performance teams.
Well, in addition to that, tell us about how you think self-compassion it plays into the role of developing resilience and how you help people cultivate that. How do you help them care for themselves?
I think a lot of times we are our hardest critic. Like we are so hard on ourselves. And I look back, I don't do this anymore, but I won't speak to my friends the way I speak to myself, Ellen. And I think that's so important that we are kind to us. And we can go through, if I am going through something harsh, look at it from not a judgment standpoint, because I would look at it from a judgment standpoint before personally, and I would say, Sally, that's so stupid. Like you're an idiot. You did this. I look at it now from a standpoint, this happened, and this is not a judgment thing. I'm not going to judge myself. Why did it happen? What is the lesson I can learn from this? And I love to tell my clients this: you have to give yourself grace. We are not perfect human beings. We tell our friends all the time, man, give yourself grace. So we have to give ourselves grace and practice self-compassion. And when we learn to be kind to us, we understand how it is, and we learn to be kinder to other people.
If someone wanted to work with you, how would they find you?
So you can go to my website at sallyallencoaching.com, and there is an information sheet there you can fill out, or you can reach me at Sally at sallyallencoaching.com.
Are your clients virtual or are they one-on-one in-person appointments?
So most of my clients are virtual because I coach from the East Coast to the West Coast and everywhere in between. But I also have clients that in the Valley here in Las Vegas that I would drive to because one of the things I'm good at doing is mediation coaching and conflict coaching. So I would go in there, two employees are fighting or something's going on, and Ellen, when I leave, 99% of the times they're shaking hands or hugging because it's not that serious 99% of the time.
I understand. And certainly your own personal trials and tribulations put you in a unique position to see the world from a very different place. One of
Yes.
the things that we learn in recovery is to find the positive experiences and build on those, which is something that you had mentioned beforehand. All of the positive resiliency in your life, all of the times that you have overcome things, even if it means that you have been able to get up, get out of bed, get dressed, brush your teeth, and go to work, may be a major accomplishment for you. But you cannot decide that these are small things. These are big things that you build on. And the same token, understanding that negative situations are a chance to relearn and redo and restart your life. So give us some examples of some of the positive situations for clients. Maybe somebody that felt stuck and then found their way forward. Some success stories, Sally.
Sure. I will tell you, one of my clients came to coaching and he said, my employees won't listen to me and I don't know what to do. So the one thing I do when people come to me is I am not a psychiatrist by any means, but I like to dig into the why things are happening. I believe the why is foundational as to why things are happening. And found out that he was not a coaching leader. He was telling his employees what to do. When you in coaching, I empower people by asking powerful questions. And it's the same thing as a leader, empowering people by asking them powerful questions. Because if you're always telling your employees what to do, if you are always guiding them, they will never think for themselves and they will never feel empowered. So they're always leaning and depending on you. And that was quite eye-opening for him and his team. And when he started doing it, I remember him texting me, Sally, this is really working. Yes, it works. It will take a minute for them to get used to it because you're always this leader you do it this way, you do it that way. But now give them the autonomy and the authority to do things. It's so powerful, Ellen.
Which is a very successful practice for parents with their children.
Absolutely.
The same kind of thing where every single parent that is helicopter parenting, that is telling the child what to do, that does not give anybody a chance to think on their own, no matter how old their children are, will always be resented and will not be respected, because mutual respect is what gets the job done, which is a great thing. Okay, so now we don't have too much time left, but I do want to hear a little bit more about your book. So tell us again the name of it, where we can find it, and a little bit more about it.
Okay, so Triumph Over Failure and Fear, and you can find it on Amazon. I published my book in 2021, and this is another resilient story that as soon as my book was released, I got attacked from half of my family members because in my culture, you don't do that, Ellen. You don't talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. You don't put it out there. And that was another resilient story. I went into a dark place for 6 months. And when I came out of that, that's where my podcast was born because I came out of it with the realization I hid my voice for 6 months. And in order to come back and come back even stronger, I am going to give people a voice to share their stories of resilience. And I did that. I just celebrated my 100th episode, giving people a voice and a platform to share their stories, the Sally Allen podcast.
Congratulations. That's absolutely wonderful. So I know a lot of us want to know, are you reunited with some family members, or are those ties severed?
Those ties are still severed, and it had to be severed for now. Sometimes we need to know when to let go. And it's okay if it's family members. A lot of times we think that because of blood, we have to hold on. And in order for us to grow and be resilient, sometimes there are some things we have to let go, and they're not the things we believe at times that we have to let go. So I know when to let go and I know when to come back.
These are major principles in recovery, which is why I knew that bringing you on today is something that our recovery listeners can get behind and relate to. Many of them are suffering with trauma in any shape, manner, or form. And that means standing up, being resilient, saying no more, and not retreating and not isolating into substance abuse or things that would hurt themselves. You decided to take the step forward and go past that and go into a situation that made you stronger. So, I want you to tell us again a little bit about that podcast of yours and the kinds of stories that you're getting on air.
Oh, there have been so many stories. My first one was a CEO who went from total drug addiction, had no hope, to now CEO of a women's recovery program. I've had politicians on there, like I've had Congresswoman Susie Lee, I've had UFC fighters, but what they're doing is that they're sharing their adversity and what they've been through and how they have come out the other side of it. So my podcast is open to a plethora of stories. So if you're interested, just reach out to me. You have my email, sally@sallyallencoaching.com. I'd love to hear your story and see if you're a fit for my podcast.
Sally Allen, Allen, Sally Allen podcast on Spotify. Where else are you?
I'm on Spotify. I'm on all the podcast platform. I'm also on Instagram, Sally Allen Podcast.
And you do some YouTube as well. Is that your podcast that you broadcast on YouTube?
Yes, it is. It is my podcast that I broadcast on YouTube.
All right. So, what else do you think is important for clients to know about, especially women and empowerment? Let's just address that for a minute, because I know that's something that you love to do. So, let's give a message to our women out there about how resiliency can truly help empower them.
So the most important thing I find is realizing that what I will go back to what I started with, that 90% of the time we live in our subconscious mind and 5% of the times we live in our conscious mind. And what we do as women, sometimes we tend to loop things over and over again, and it's negative things. I would advise that come back into your conscious mind, but do it with help. I have girlfriends who bring me back to say, do you realize you do this all the time? You put yourself down all the time. Do you realize? But it was my default. So I would say community is important. Community would be the most important thing that you would do for yourself. And one of the things you said, Ellen, is key. Don't retreat and go inside of yourself. You have to talk to people. We are as sick as our secrets. And we need to get it out there and talk to people and know that we're not alone. Whatever it is you're going through, I guarantee you somebody else is going through the same thing, and you'd be surprised who that person is.
In recovery, there are many different ways to stay connected. And for many of us, we understand that the opposite of addiction is community. The opposite of poor mental health is connection, for sure, and talking to other people and understanding those differences, for sure, and moving forward in a resilient way. So now that we just have about a minute left, I want you to just spend a little bit of time and let us know what you want to leave us with today.
Okay. So I want to say that resiliency is a form of bouncing back from what you have gone through. But I mentioned before is bouncing back quickly. In order to bounce back quickly, one of the things you have to do is find your process and put it in place. My process used to be I churn things over and over again. It will be sometimes for a whole month. I would leave this podcast and go think about, I can't believe I said that. That was so stupid. But now I'm right here on this podcast letting it go because I did the best I can. And as you find your process, whatever way that works for you, I have different frameworks I build with my clients to get through this and to live resiliently. You find that process that works for you, and then continue to use that process to live resiliently and get out of the bondage in your mind. I tell clients this: prison sometimes is not literally being behind bars, it could be in here.
I understand. Thank you so much, Sally Allen, for spending the day with us. Resiliency Mindset Coach Sally Allen. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Go to my website, pushybroadfromthebronx.com. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening. And remember, everybody needs a little push.
From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.